not only did I study the film of him on the field, I listened to his interviews, right? Because I wanted to know what kind of a person he was. So how could I talk shit to him? How do I get into his head? And when he's doing well, what do I do to get him off of it? How do I shift his focus to something else?
Like you'll be lined up and you'll be like, I know you're a sucker for a vegan bolognese. He's like, who told you? You like fucking take off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect.
Ho, 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 Merry post-Christmas, everybody. Santa Claus here wishing you a happy, belated holiday season. Hope you had a great present and a great time. I drank in the bathtub by myself. Mrs. Claus has been on the fritz. Not Santa. Adam Ray, back with another special About Last Night podcast post-Christmas, Hanukkah. Hope you guys are having a good holiday season as we head into 2023. And as we do that here on the About Last Night podcast, which thank you for coming back. Thank you for subscribing. Share it with your friends, your family, your lovers, your exes. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Watching the podcast is always a delight. And today's episode, the production value is top-notch, baby. We shot this episode in Seattle, Washington with one of my favorite people, one of my favorite athletes, a true gangster on and off the field, a Seahawk legend, a Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champ, Doug Baldwin. You know him, you love him. If you don't know him, that's just because you're trying to act cool, because you do know him. Legend. And met him at the Champions of Change game that he, Michael Bennett, and Cliff Averill, fellow Seahawk legends, organized for their organization, charity. And the dude is just a gangster. And so we sat down for about an hour and a half and chatted everything. Seahawks, Super Bowl, Stanford, Florida, where he grew up, Seattle, hooping. Man, the guy is just a great podcaster. The conversation could have gone for 5 hours. Doug is has the gift of gab and was just real generous with his stories and his time and real inspiring shit, too. It's always cool when you can... my favorite podcasts are the ones where, you walk away going, man, that guy's impressive. And we had some laughs as well. Always. That's what this show's about. So enjoy the hell out of this episode. Follow Dougie B on Twitter at Doug Baldwin Jr. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Adam Ray Comedy, the podcast at ALN Podcast. And we have a TikTok for About Last Night, which is just About Last Night on TikTok. Of course, AdamRayComedy.com for all my merch, tour dates, videos, tour dates. We got some fun ones like this week. I'm in Vegas to close out 2022. The Laugh Factory at the Tropicana Casino in Las Vegas. Come out and see me December 29th through January 1st. We'll ring in the new year, start 2023 off with a bang in Vegas. And then right after that, going to Minnesota, Acme Comedy Company, January 4th through the 7th. And then we're going to Baltimore, doing Magoobies Comedy Club, January 26th through the 28th. And then just added, Oxnard, Levity Live, February 3rd through the 5th. Come out and see your boy, Oxnard, Levity Live. Can't wait. Love this club. February 3rd through the 5th. And then Batavia, Illinois, February 16th through the 18th. And then San Francisco Punchline, March 1st through the 4th. And then the hits just keep on coming, man. Detroit, West Palm Beach, Chicago, Phoenix, Seattle, Dallas, Fort Worth. Come out and see your boy, AdamRayComedy.com for all those tickets. Also, I will be doing shows with the Impractical Jokers April 7th and 8th in Portland and Seattle. I cannot fucking wait. Come out and see those shows. Get your tickets at ImpracticalJokers.com. Of course, Young Rock, we got a handful of episodes left every Friday, NBC. Welcome to Chippendales has a few episodes left Tuesday nights on Hulu. So many great episodes and some prizes coming up, so make sure you are subscribed, again, on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. And now that we got all the goodies out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy the last episode of 2022 with the man, the myth, the legend, Doug Baldwin.
Hey, it's Herbert. And you're listening to the About Last Night podcast, you slippery little son of a bitch.
About last night.
Baldwin makes a catch on a slant. He's at the 40, 35, he accelerates, 20, 15, 10, 5. The little guy from Stanford, the rookie, Doug Baldwin.
a few years ago I was in these same shoes, you know, and being able to come back out here and see the kids enjoy themselves and they're smiling and having fun and interacting back with you, you know, it's such a rewarding feeling.
Been blessed with a platform, and I think the platform is an opportunity to express the values and the importance of doing that soulful work. You're never going to be perfect, but you strive for perfection, and that's just the mentality that I have.
The ball caught by Baldwin, makes one man miss, dives underneath, he's in! Touchdown! Seahawks! John Baldwin, how in the world did he catch it? Leaping catch, and a dive for the goal line, and number 89 does it again. Yeah. Doug Baldwin, you are amazing.
It's a game of getting knocked down and getting back up, you know? So you have opportunities where you're not going to always be successful, but it's going to build character and build strength and fortitude and how you handle it.
Let's talk some shit.
Let's talk some shit. Guys, welcome back to the show with the great... Be on that mic, too. Yeah, you know what you're doing.
I do.
I've seen you on a mic many times. There's quite a bit of Doug Baldwin YouTube interview footage out there.
Is there?
You had your own, like...
Nope, we're not talking about that.
All right, moving on. First of all, appreciate you for making time.
Of course.
I want to
appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come join you.
Bro, anytime. You're a legend, and, you know, very few people will... First of all, for people, how we met... was at the Champions of Change, you, Cliff, and Mike Bennett's organization, which is doing insane work. Check them out, championsofchange.com, .org, keeping the .orgs alive. When we met there, and I asked you to do the pod, and you were like, for sure, take my number. You know, I for sure, and it was a fake number, and so I had to track you down.
No, it was not.
Yeah, it was a real number, and it was real sentiment, and a lot of people, you know, you just get so accustomed to lip service, especially. I think in our, you know, entertainment, athletic industry of people, for sure, whatever. So you're a man of your word, and I appreciate it.
Of course.
That game was crazy. I didn't know you could hoop. You're here with your fam and coming straight from a LA Fitness beatdown?
Yes, beat down. Beat down.
You're probably one of the most competitive guys I think I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
In the Champions of Change game, I mean, you fucking were going for MVP, and you said that right out of the gate. And I was like, all right, he's, you know, we'll see. You know, Doug's, I don't know, man. I feel like he's talking a big game. You know, Sherm was talking a big game. And then you get out there, you were hitting threes, you were fucking dunking, you were bottoming people up, you were talking shit. It was awesome. Is that you through and through?
Yeah, I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
Every time and I say this, when I meet somebody and they say, oh yeah, I met you at LA Fitness, I say, I'm sorry. Don't judge me based off of that when I'm playing basketball, because that's a totally different person.
The LA Fitness competition can't, like I was just saying, I'm not trying to get a contract on there. And you said.
Yeah, don't come to our LA Fitness with that mindset. That's the wrong mindset. We're in there to hoop.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in there to hoop and win, period.
Have you been like that since you were a kid?
Since I can remember.
Wow. So Pee Wee football, you were just fucking trying to kill people.
No, I wouldn't say that. Yeah. I wasn't trying to kill people on the football field right away. It didn't happen probably until 12, 13 years old. I was the star player on my team, and then if you let my mom and my coaches tell it, they say that I got arrogant and that I wasn't working as hard, and so they demoted me, and I didn't take that very kindly. So then I was out to prove them that they made a mistake, and eventually I got my starting position back, and then rest is history. But
this is in Gulf.
Well, the team was in Pensacola, Florida.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you grew up in Gulf.
Gulf Breeze.
Gulf Breeze.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's in the Panhandle of Florida.
There it is.
30 minutes away from Mobile, Alabama. So it's really like a mix of. Yeah,
it's a mix. I just went and did a show in Alabama, and I pulled up some of their goofy-ass laws to talk about. Alabama has a law where it's illegal to tie an alligator to a fire hydrant. Did you know that?
I know that. Hey,
meth, table for one. Who the fuck, first of all, owns an alligator and has enough discrepancies to where they're like, I'm going to tie you up again. You know what I'm saying? That place is wacky. How wacky was it to grow up in Gulf Breeze?
I mean, it was different because you have you have folks who have just, been, that's just their way of life for a very long time. Right, wrong, or different. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just, it's a certain way of living. And then I was one of the few black people at my school.
Wow.
And so here's the thing. So there's this 3-mile bridge. On one side of it is Gulf Breeze. On the other side is Pensacola. So I grew up, my house was in Gulf Breeze because I was in the middle of Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach, my 2 grandparents' houses, right? But I spent all of my time in Pensacola. And so I kind of grew up in this mix of 2 worlds, and I got to see both sides of the spectrum, and it was a very interesting upbringing, right? And then I got to Stanford, and it was a total culture shock for me. It was just, there's people from all walks of life all over the world, which I had never seen, never been exposed to before, and that was an adjustment for me. So I wouldn't say it was wacky. I appreciate the perspective that I gained living there from 0 to 18 years old, but really grateful for the experiences that I was exposed to leaving that area as well.
Do not a lot of people leave that area?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
What is it like to be the only black kid at a school, or one of few?
It was challenging.
Yeah,
it had its challenges.
Yeah,
it had its challenges. One year, I think it was my senior year. It was like it's senior year, so people are kind of lax and they feel like they can just they can kind of push your buttons a little bit because it's senior year.
Sure.
And they were kind of lax. I was fed up, right? Yeah. So we had an altercation, but it got resolved and everything was fine.
And you played, so football at 12, 13 is when things kind of took it up a notch for you, as far as like this wasn't just a for fun thing. Is that kind of? Well,
it became another avenue for me having to prove myself, prove my value in the world, So football was always that for me. So I started playing when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually quit that first year, and then the following year I played. I wanted to quit. My mom wouldn't let me quit.
Good for her.
I ended up making the last 3 tackles in our championship game, made the game-saving tackle, and we won that championship game. And so I was hooked, right?
The adrenaline from that moment, yeah.
Yeah. And I had always been a pretty good athlete. And so once that started translating, and then I became, a really good player. And then, I was a kid, right? So you do what kids do at that time. And I needed a butt kicking, and my coaches and my parents, they were able to do that for me in those moments. But at the moment I took it personally.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't think I'm good enough to start? All right, well, I'm going to run through a brick wall, and I'm going to prove to y'all that I deserve to be out here. It worked out, but it was a benefit for me in the long run.
I was just going to say, having that type of, and it's obviously like, paid dividends, and to have that sort of, obstacle at that age, like, you've talked about it at length once you got to the league about, people just second guessing or having doubts. Do you think that is for any like young athlete now? Do you think more like if they're not having that, if they're just coasting through on getting accolades and adulation and all that it's more of a can do more damage?
I do. This is a great topic because I've got 3 daughters now, right?
Yeah,
and so I'm trying to thank you. I'm trying to figure out how do I protect them from
the world.
Yes, essentially all of the social media. Man, yeah. I mean, obviously I got my brother and my cousin here, and they're in that phase of life.
Bro, they look like they got 42 shitty TikTok dances between them.
Probably more.
My nieces are 13, man. They're all about it, and I'm like, man, how do I control? It's like, because it is a part of, you don't want to completely take away what is a part of their, their time and their world, but like, how do you balance that?
I have no idea. But I think, from my perspective, when I watch football now, especially at, high school, college level, I just see a lot of kids who are they're not really focused about perfecting their craft. They're really just about the show. They want to get that picture or that video that they post on social media, right, to get clout from. And I hate that shit.
Man, yeah.
It just irritates the hell out of me because that's not what we came from. We came from like, line up, I'm going to beat you because all I care about is winning, period. These kids nowadays, they want to put that stuff on social media. At least from my perspective, right?
Sure.
And that could be my old man talking. Right?
No.
I mean, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that there's some level of, I don't want to say a lack of adversity. It's just maybe it's a lack of the perspective of how they look at adversity, right? Because look, all the mental health issues are increasing, suicide rates are increasing. So I don't want to take that away, right? They are dealing with things that I think are different than what we dealt with growing up.
Yeah.
However, I just think the struggle or adversity that they're facing is different than what we faced, right? Like I faced having to wake up every Saturday morning and cut my grass after I finished cutting my grass, and I had to travel over to my grandfather's house and cut his grass, right? Like those are the things that was instilled discipline and routine in me, which I don't feel like, at least the generation I'm watching, they're not doing that.
Bro, if this podcast, just like Sesame Street, was sponsored by, instead of letters and numbers, words, discipline, and routine. Yeah. Huge, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, so you had jobs as you were going through, what, middle school, high school?
Of course.
Yeah. And that was what, your mom or pops, just being like...
Absolutely. So Saturday mornings, I had to be up cutting the grass. If I heard my dad outside weed eating the edge in the yard, I had to make sure I was up within 15 minutes, because if I'm not out there within 15 minutes, there's a problem.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Was there ever a problem?
Oh, sometimes.
I don't know how you can prep for high school and college, and I feel like college is good prep, right, for the real world. Yeah. Like you talk about some of the experiences, like once you got to Stanford, that set you up for life. Do you feel like that college provides?
Well, I mean, it was the struggles, really.
Yeah.
But I built that elasticity through my childhood. And granted, there's a lot of things that I went through as a child that I would hope that no child would have to go through. But, if you got to go through that stuff, you got to figure out a way how to make it valuable to you, right? So you got to learn the lessons. And so I think my brain elasticity was, I'm going to go through really, really hard times or really hard situations, but knowing that I can outlast it, right? The stamina to get through it. And that was the mindset I had when I was at Stanford. My junior year, I almost quit, almost left school because I was having a hard time on the football field. I don't want to get into it, but the coach that was there was, we didn't get along.
Can you at least speak to, like, that happens probably more often than not, right?
Absolutely.
Coaches and players I feel like when you first get in, and maybe it's similar to, comedy, where it's like when I first started headlining comedy clubs, right? Being the guy where they pay you to come out, they put you up, it's your show.
Yeah.
I was like definitely treading on, didn't want to ruffle feathers. So the first few years of being at clubs, if they added 3 guest spots to do 10 minutes a piece before me, and that makes the show longer before me, I didn't say anything because I'm just like happy to be here, right?
Yeah.
There's probably some of that in sports, right? Like when you first get in, you're trying to make a mark, but we're not.
Yeah, I mean, some of that, but I think also just you got kids who are coming from all walks of life, right? And there's certain experiences that I had as a child that, like, if a certain person comes at me a certain way, I respond a certain way, right? Totally. And that's from childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And so that's there's that part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I had to learn through that, but it made me a better person, made me a better man today, and obviously gave me some motivation to get through it to then do well in football overall.
3rd and 9, and Jackson's in the backfield. Different blitzing. Here they come. Pass across the middle, and it's caught for the first. It's Baldwin shaking free and sprinting down the sideline for the touchdown. His 3rd of the day. Doug Baldwin.
What you talked about, the culture shock of like being in California.
Yeah.
Had you been to California prior to that?
I was there one time, but I was really insulated. I went there for my cousin's his mom and dad's wedding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Different experience when you're there for college.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Campus huge. Were you pumped to be there for school? It was so when you were trying to, go play college football, were they on the list of places that were like?
So they were the only major D1 school to recruit me.
Right.
Yeah. The other school was Louisiana Lafayette, and I actually wanted to go there because I wanted to stay closer to home.
Yeah.
But it was like Stanford, I couldn't pass that up.
Come on.
So I had to do that, and it was a hard decision because I was, my brother was 5 years old at the time. It's really super close to my family, and so leaving them, going to the other side of the country, right, and had never been that far away from them ever. It was a really hard thing for me to do, but I had to do it.
It is more terrifying than people think. Anytime, I went from Seattle to LA, which is a couple-hour flight, still like moving away to go to SE for school, which still I feel like anybody that moves away to go to college, I feel like I got mad props for, because that is, I don't know about you, I didn't know anybody down there.
Yeah,
I had a second cousin that I kind of saw, but like there were no connections.
Yeah.
Did you feel fish out of water, like when you got there? Like,
for sure.
Tough to make friends, all that?
Yeah, but my mindset was, all the social stuff, the school stuff, that'll all take care of itself. I got to go in there and focus on what I know really well, and was football, right? So the day I got dropped off, or I shouldn't say the day I got dropped, the day before I was to go into school and like we were going to start practice and all the things, I remember there was a parking lot, there was a mall near Stanford, and I can't remember exactly the name of the mall now, but I went there with my dad. We went in the parking lot, and I ran. I was just like sprinting, running, suicides in the parking lot, because I had so much anxiety, right? And my thought process was, I got to be ready for this. So I need to be, working out.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went and got some food, went to the parking lot. I ran my route, my suicides, and then, yeah.
What food did you get? In the mall? The food court? What's your mall food court go-to? Real quick tangent.
We went to P.F. Chang's.
Boom.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Always solid.
Yeah.
On the way out as well. What is your mall what is your mall food court go-to if you got to go?
Food court go-to.
I'm going to throw a few options at you. We got Sbarro, we got Jamba Juice, we got Wetzel's Pretzels, we got Panda.
You got to do, Panda for sure.
Come on.
Got to do Jamba Juice.
Back to back?
Secret menu.
Like you're washing down your chow mein with an orange dream machine?
For sure. No white gummy though. Secret menu.
Oh yeah. Secret at Jamba?
Yeah.
Jamba Juice with the secret menu. Who knew?
Yeah.
You strike me as someone that's like, I don't know, dude, 2% body fat.
6.
Fuck, dude. I was 6 in high school. A little different now. Have you always been just like cut and physically, Yeah?
Yeah, we yeah. When I say
it's in the Baldwin family genes. You guys are fucking coming here with triceps and deltoids, and
my dad
got swollen calves.
My dad and my grandfather were both very, very fit, and so they had active lifestyles, and we kind of fell into that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you also, I feel like, enjoy, like when, again, back to the Champions of Change hoops game, you were not getting tired. I did hear you. I watched the clip of you mic'd up a little bit, and you were saying like, "This court's kind of big," and I was like, "Thank God that some actual athletes share the sentiment," because I fucking 3 or 4 times up and down the court. I remember when I got out there, I was like, "I'm gonna just," and Kemp and Peyton, who are our coaches, were like, "Yo, cherry pick, fucking get out there and cherry pick." And Kemp looked right at me. He was like, "Big man, cherry pick," and I was like, "I got you, Ray, man." I got 4 good up and downs of the court in me, and once I blew a layup, and Will Conroy never looked at me again. But did you feel tired at all out there? It's a different, obviously, than football, like sort of.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel tired, but this the size of the court, 'cause we played LA Fitness all the time. So like you turn around and you're on the other side of the court, right? So like the thought process of like, okay, what do I have to do? It just took a little bit longer to kind of get adjusted to that size of the field.
Fouling him, dog. That's fine. That's fine. I got unlimited fouls. Hey, go sit down before I give you a tech. Tech him up. You heavy, boy. Damn.
But I tell my brother and even my nephew, my cousin, this all the time. Like, you can be the greatest athlete on the court, on the field, in your arena. But what separates the good ones from the great ones from the elite ones is the stamina. It's consistency, And so I trained that way. I was, during the off season, I ran, and my brother, he actually was there with me sometimes too. I would run sprint every day. We'd run sprints. We'd run 2, I forget what they're called, half gassers. The width of the field. You run down and back. We'd run 10 of those. That was your halftime. You get a minute halftime. And there was a certain time we had to make them, right? So I forget what the time was, but you had to run down, back. We had to make it in a certain time. And you had like 5 second, 4 second break in between, and you had to sprint again. 10 of those, Once you did 10, we had a minute halftime, and then you start doing it again. We did that every day. And the idea was, it's like, look, I can perfect my craft. I can perfect my hands. I won't drop a pass. I could run the most immaculate route. But if I'm tired, it doesn't matter. And so I trained so that I was never tired. And so, to your point, it hits me when you ask me that question because, yeah, that's something I take a lot of pride in. I trained really, really hard at that. And even to this day, I kind of train that way. It's all about stamina.
How do you know if what you're doing is the right stuff to prepare you? I mean, is it just all trial and error? You're like, all right, I'm going to do 20 more half gassers. And then you see in the game like that week, like, oh, shit, I'm less tired. Is it?
No, it's just, it's what I learned from college. What I learned from college was basically you got to push yourself.
Gotcha.
And there's a certain limit you got to reach, right? Every time. Not that I shouldn't say every time. You got to push that boundary, right? And so you got to meet it. And honestly, what it comes down to is self-motivation. You have to do it. Like nobody else is gonna push you to do this. You have to push yourself to do this. And I said that's the part that really gets me fired up, and I enjoy like watching when I see guys who are, it's the fourth quarter of a game and they're the ones that are making the difference, whether it's scoring points or playing defense or making a game-saving tackle or making that third down catch because everybody else around them is tired and exhausted, but they're still moving forward. That's the difference to me. So I enjoyed that chess match of the game, which is done well before you step out onto the field or to the court.
So you can tell when you're on the field who's giving it a little extra and who's phoning it in.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Every time.
Wow. And it's pretty and is it just, I guess, maybe in the third and fourth quarters when you start to pick up on, is it just even like the way a lineman will be in the huddle, approach the line, the defense?
Yeah, it's the way that they talk. It's the way that they breathe. It's the way that they walk. Even when we would have a 3-and-out or a hard offensive, possession, and we come to the sideline and we'd all huddle up to start talking about it. Like sometimes I wouldn't say anything. I would just look around and see, okay, who can I count on?
Wow.
Who's breathing heavy or who's still focused and whose mindset is still present and ready to go dominate this next rep. That's what I would look for. My boy Jermaine, he was at that level with me every time.
Curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we bonded over that. Even when we go out there and the cornerbacks we were facing, we could tell they're getting a little laxed on their hand placement or their steps, and Jermaine and I wouldn't even have to say anything. We just look at each other in the eye and say, "Yeah, it's over. We got him."
Were you just gonna score every time we get the ball? You gonna score every time we get it? No.
Holy shit! You're always looking for that edge. I'm sure.
Always.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like if Russ had walked into the huddle and was like, "All right, guys, danger witch on one," you'd be like, "All right, he's tired."
I don't know that play.
I don't know that play. People, I know Hawks fans are obsessed with you and Sherm's relationship and backstory. I think that's pretty. I was doing some deep diving on it. I want to know how much when you guys
we just came from hooping with him.
For real?
Yep. He's a terrible basketball player.
Yeah, well, was that
awful?
Awful. He was talking a similar amount of shit at the celeb game. He's a brick wall as far as a body. I'm I don't know if he just bumped into him.
He'll play hard defense.
There it is. Yeah. I went up to try to get an offensive rebound and just bounced off of him. But I'm a thick little 206 Jew, and he bounced off me and was like, "Oh shit!" And he didn't expect as much girth from below the neck. But definitely when I hit him, I was like, "Oh, you're all muscle." That was just truly I can't imagine what that's like on the football field with pads.
Yeah.
First of all, just the Stanford meetup. Was it instant friendship? I mean, just take me through when you guys first met. You guys strike me too as both coming from this, having the Kobe mentality, by the way, work on and off the field, the way you guys approach the game, which I think is why you guys have, been so incredible. But what did you bond over, I guess, right away?
That,
awesome.
Yeah, that mindset. I think, so my official visit, it was Tavita Pritchard, Austin Yancey, and Richard Sherman. They were they weren't I think Tavita Pritchard was my official host, but I was with Yancey and I was with Sherm, and you could tell I was being me. I'm I'm not here to party. I'm not here to like mingle. Like I'm here to win, you know, and they could feel that energy from me. And I think Sherm, we bonded very quickly because, you know, he was a receiver at the time, and the mindset that I was bringing to the table was just like, okay, hey, you know, tell me about the offense. You know, it wasn't about like the school. Like I was going to the school. There was no more conversation. This official visit was just a formality, right? Tell me about the offense. Tell me about the quarterback. Tell me about the coaches. Tell me about, okay, what do I need to do to get on the field? You know? Wow. So I was already jumping to that, and I think Sherm really appreciated that. The other guys, you know, they were there. They wanted to have a fun time. I wasn't there, you know, to do that. And so Sherm and I bonded over that. And then when we got on the field, you know, it was nothing but competition. I'm here to win. And, you know, I think it's been well documented even through our time in the NFL. All we cared about was winning. Yeah. You know, we were holding each other accountable to a higher everybody on the team to a higher standard, because I didn't care if you were a first round draft pick. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care if you was undrafted. Can you come in here and help this team win? That's all that matters. And if you're a first round draft pick and you think you're just gonna walk in here because you're a first round draft pick, that ain't gonna fly either. You're gonna get punched in the mouth, and then we're gonna see how you respond to that. You know, and listen, that's football talk, right?
Fuck yeah.
That's a whole different realm. I got 3 daughters now, so I'm trying to be a different man, right? I'm trying to be a better human being for them. Although I will say there's a lot of life lessons that I learned,
1,000,
right, that I can then apply to being a better father for them.
That's beautiful, man. What was your thought process when you, I guess, entered the draft, and then, and that was, you know, that was coming?
Well, I mean, I'll give you context through college. So,
Please.
You know, like, yes, going to Stanford, the hope and the dream was to eventually make it to the NFL, right? But honestly, that was so far removed from my mind, because I knew there was no chance of me getting to the NFL if I didn't take care of business right then and there. So I had to stay as present as I possibly could, right? And there were so many struggles along the way. First and foremost, I'm a black kid from the South going to Stanford University now, right? So all of that I had to deal with, and it wasn't a smooth transition by any means. So I struggled, right, as any kid would. Then I struggled in the locker room. I struggled trying to get on the field. I struggled with focusing. I struggled with all of the things that would allow me to play on the football field. So I didn't play. And then even in my junior year, I didn't play. So in junior year is a year where you like, that's when you got to get the film for then scouts to come, and then they come back your senior year to see the evolution, right? So I didn't have any of that.
You didn't play all of junior year?
Nope. I played like 3 snaps in the bowl game.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So where is your mind at that point?
Beautiful question. So, you know, during that time I was struggling. So I called my mom and I was like, we got to do whatever we got to do for me to still go here, Stanford, but I can't play football anymore. Cause I was done. I was at that level. I was done. But there was no way. Like, I was on a football scholarship, so if I wasn't playing football, I wasn't going to be able to go, right? So that was a really, really hard time, but ended up staying, obviously. And then so at the end of my junior year, going into the off season, my mindset was, fuck it. I'm just going to focus on me, focus on doing what I can. Don't worry about what the coaches say, what they, you know, like, none of that bullshit anymore. I'm just going to focus on me and be the best version of me that I can. And I had a good mentor. He's actually the same age as me, Ryan Whalen. He was a receiver in our room. And he just had the right mindset. You know, he was just so focused on his craft. And so I just started following him a little bit. And then I took lessons from him and I started applying it to my own routine, you know? So I just focused on myself, and I said, regardless of what happens this next year, I'm going to give myself an opportunity I'm going to prepare myself for an opportunity if it arises, right? The very first game my senior year, Chris Owusu and Ryan Whalen were both injured. And so I got the start. I scored 2 touchdowns, had over 100 yards, and never looked back. But it was late, right? You know, I tell my brother this all the time, like, you got to make do with what you have while you have it, because if you don't, sometimes it can be too late. You know, fortunately enough for me, it wasn't too late. I didn't get drafted, right? So I didn't have enough film, enough clout to then get drafted, but at least somebody was noticing me as an undrafted player. So the Seattle Seahawks, which the reason why they were interested is because they were studying Sherm, right?
Wow.
They drafted Sherm.
I had no idea.
When Sherm got there, he was telling them, hey, you need to look at this guy. So then, you know, the draft had ended. I didn't get drafted. They called me and said, hey, we would, you know, after the lockout was ended, said, hey, we would like to bring you in. And it was, I had to go.
Holy shit. Wow, so he truly is just a homie on all fronts.
Yeah, that's my brother.
Do you guys belong in the top 100? Does Doug belong?
Oh, Doug definitely belongs. I mean, if they missed him on the Pro Bowl, so I'm guessing they missed him on the top 100. I mean, it's just unfortunate.
You talk about the lockout happened. So first of all, entering the draft and then not getting drafted. I mean, do you feel like, to me, self-assured, strong-willed? So is it all right, that's just another hurdle, or is it like another okay, that's that?
No, yeah, it was okay. Well, I guess that's the end of that. So I started looking for jobs.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Where?
So one of my best friends at the time.
Jamba Juice. I know your secret menu real well.
I mean, I'd have gained too much weight.
Yeah.
So Dropbox was just coming on the scene at that time, and I had a friend who was working there, and so I interviewed with them, and I basically told the guys look, I'm gonna try to go to the NFL. So when the lockout ends, if I get a call, I'm gonna go, but I need something to fall back on. And so the guy told me, and I think it was it was an executive at the time. I don't want to say it was a CEO, but it's pretty high up. And basically told me, he's like, once you figure out the NFL thing, then come back. But and they were a startup at the time, so I understood it. They gotta be smart with their dollars. But yeah, I didn't really have a fallback plan.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I think it was Will Smith who once said, which I really dug. This is pre-slap. If you have a plan B, it distracts from the plan A. I always thought that was dope. That's crazy that you even had that go through your mind where it was all right, let me try to figure something else out if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So you have enough tape. The lockout, people don't realize too, the draft comes and goes, and teams can't talk to you, right? Yep. For another, how long? Year?
It wasn't until July. So I forget when the draft was. I forget when the draft is. Period.
Yeah.
But it was late July when I got the call, and I had to make it was a very quick decision. I remember, I think I had a day and a half to make the decision, because there was two. It was San Diego, or three. There was San Diego, Cleveland Browns, and Seattle. And so I had a day and a half to make the decision, and then I had to pack all my stuff and go. And I remember I packed up my car and headed to Seattle.
Were you so pumped though?
I was.
You had an I'm in the NFL playlist mix CD, fucking all ready to go?
No. It was more so I got an opportunity. I can't let this go. So when I got there, I was murdering everybody. Anybody who was in my way, you were in my way. So get out of my way. That was the mindset I had, because I had to make it. There was no plan B at this time. I had to figure it out.
Yeah, not making this team and being a part of this organization was not an option.
Right.
Well, what was it about? So Pete and John called you?
John actually sent me a handwritten letter, basically saying that he thought that I could add value to them in third down. Right. They had I think it was Brandon Stokely had just retired, and so they needed somebody to come in and fill that void, and he thought that I could potentially fill that void. And so obviously that gave me motivation, that their GM thought highly enough of me.
Fuck yeah.
Right. So that gave me some confidence to go in there and just be myself.
From the get-go,
Yeah.
I mean, you've talked about this, we've texted about this, just the you're a big culture guy, right?
Yeah.
I've heard you preach about that before, getting to know you, and obviously the Seahawks are, I feel like, at the top of the heap when it comes to that and setting the tone for just how things, giving you the best opportunity to be the best you can, right?
Yeah.
Was it instantaneous? I mean, you walked into the VMAC and just being in Seattle, I guess first impressions also, or did you have blinders on because you were like, I just need to put on the pads and make my mark?
Yeah, it was a combination of all of that. I think first and foremost, Pete made it a very safe environment for you just to be yourself, right? Like he's such a warm personality and just very disarming.
That matters, right?
It does. It matters a lot.
At the coaching level?
It matters, especially the head coach, right? If your head coach is setting that precedent, then that means you can just feel free to go in there and be yourself. And, people can nitpick at it because, yes, it allows folks to truly be themselves, which sometimes, they push the boundaries. But I think that's a good thing, right? Because you're not only are you stretching the boundaries of the framework of the organization, you're also stretching everybody individual boundaries and pushing them to be the best versions of themselves, right? That's what I took away. That was my first impression of Pete. It's just but he's a competitor, right? So
I was just going to say, I've seen him curse. Like, he's got a dark side to him.
So the first thing I said to him was like, I think at that point, like we were going to make a bet about USC Stanford.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was talking shit like, we've been whooping your ass the past few years.
Yeah.
You're lucky I'm on your team now. Right.
So
like
funny.
that was like, I remember we were in the training room and that was the first impression I gave to Pete. Like, I'm here to compete. I don't care who you brought in. I don't care who you drafted. I'm here.
Oh, he loves that.
He loved
by the way,
it. He
dude.
loved it.
Yeah, he loved you
he loved the
immediately.
smile on his face. I remember that. But no, you have a head coach who sets that precedent, and then you have players who come in and make it their own, right? So you had myself and Sherm, like who we were just gonna come in and just be ourselves, right? Like there was nothing. We're just competitors, so you got to stop me from me being myself,
Yeah.
right? And then you had Cam and Earl. And Walter Thurman, and you had guys who and then Ricardo Lockett, right, who came in with me, and then Tavares Jackson. And I know people always hate on me when I talk about T-Jack, God bless his soul, but, because they're like, oh, you talk about T-Jack, you don't talk about, listen, I was a rookie. I came in the league and Tavares Jackson was my quarterback, right? That is they have a major impact on the quarterback has a major impact on a young guy when they come into the league. T-Jack took us all under his wing. He loved on us like he was an older brother. He cooked for us.
Oh shit.
Like he took care of us and he treated us like, man, I don't even know how to explain it. He loved us. He allowed us to be ourselves. He truly saw who we were as individuals and as young men, right? In that world trying to make it. And he loved on us. And like I owe a lot to T-Jack, and I appreciate him and respect him. And I know, we all have our things when none of us are perfect, but T-Jack was exactly what I needed, and I'm so grateful that I went to Seattle because I met him, and I wouldn't be the receiver that I was without him. And I also wouldn't be the man I am today without, running into Tavares Jackson. He had a major impact on my life. And a lot of the guys, Ricardo Lockett, Jermaine Kearse, all these guys will say the same thing.
So similar to the way that a head coach doesn't need to be like disarming, like you said Pete was, but it's invaluable to set that tone. To have a quarterback that takes you under his wing isn't like assumed, right? You can be in a situation where the quarterback is, who knows where he's at in his career or how he is or how he operates, and maybe he just is like, look, I'm going to do my thing on the field. We'll connect as much as we need to, but we're not working out in the off season. You can have those guys, right? They probably exist.
Yeah.
So for him to do that, set you on the right path.
Yeah. T-Jack took care of us. I mean, we all went to Minnesota to work out with Larry Fitzgerald. Him and T-Jack were close too.
Holy shit.
Yeah. T-Jack just brought us along. And yeah, to your point, T-Jack was at a point in his career where he knew himself. He wasn't trying to be something more than what he was. He was just trying to be T-Jack, and we all felt that, and it was really safe and comforting to be around, right? Because we didn't feel like we had to be part of anything else around him. We were just hanging out with T-Jack.
Do you think it's almost better to have somebody who's not that accomplished so that they are more relatable? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely, but. I don't know if it's that part. It's who the individual is.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Like,
yeah.
I worked out with Sam Bradford before, and that was before Sam got drafted. And
He's a beast.
It was a highly touted, but he was such a down to earth, cool dude. I loved working out with him. And I've met several guys who you would assume because of all of the things that they have around them that they would be, whatever you would expect for them to be because of that, right? But they're not. They're just down to earth people. And culture wise, like as you said, like culture really matters to me. That matters in culture, right? If you have a guy who is just part of the rest of the team, even though he's a superstar, it brings everybody else along. But if you have guys who kind of separate themselves and then make it more individualized, that obviously that's a negative impact on the team, right? And so that definitely matters. And I'm really fortunate that I had T-Jack at the beginning because I could have went to other places and I don't know what those other quarterbacks would have been, but T-Jack was that guy. He was a really, really good dude for all of us. I'm going to say this. Pete and John they do a really good job at drafting folks when they focus on their principles, right? And John's probably gonna get mad at me when I say this, but when they get off of their principles, they get caught. And sometimes, and I think that's just the nature of the business, right? Like, it's the makeup of the team that you currently have, so you're trying to fit these pieces into place, but really it's like, you got to come back to your principles. When they focused on their principles, they draft really, really well,
Break that down for me.
Guys who fit the culture. Not necessarily the greatest athlete, not necessarily the guy who has all the best stats, but the guys who fit the culture, right? Because the guys who fit the culture, they may not be, so, you take you take a guy who played cornerback for 1 year, right, in Sherm.
Yeah.
And you see that he's going to bring some tenacity to your culture, which then also is the kind of defense you're trying to build. And so you draft him. You take a flyer on him in the 5th round, right? And then he goes out there and he's everything that you expect him to be, and then he dominates his side of the field, right? It's those kind of guys. When they get to those, and they did it this year too, right? And I think I tweeted it. I really liked this draft class because if you looked up and down the board, first and foremost, they were all good guys, right? Like, yes, they, some guys have their things, but at the core of them, they're all good human beings, right? And then they also have the tenacity. A lot of them were kind of under-touted. They're not highly touted. They're not, they didn't have all the stuff that comes with them. So they wanted to prove themselves. You throw that into a mix with Tyler Lockett, gosh, I can't even think of the guys' names now. Quandre Diggs. You throw that in that mix, you start making some stuff. And I know they knew that, right? They had a plan, obviously, before they even went to the draft of what was going to play out. But I liked that they got what it seemed like to me, that they got back to their principles, and you're seeing it play out, right? Everybody expected this to be kind of an off year, right? But I think all of us who saw it for what they were doing and what they were building, they were bringing that culture back. And it doesn't matter how talented, you could have the best player on the field, but if you don't have the culture and the guys around to build that, it doesn't matter. They didn't have, arguably, you could argue that they didn't have the best players in the world, right? But they had the culture and they had the dynamic that was going to go out there and going to compete every game. And that's all that matters. You just give yourself an opportunity, and you see that every game that they play in. Yeah,
I've heard from you, Cliff, obviously KJ, about that everybody else, I mean, and obviously Pete and in the locker room and in the organization did not think this was going to be a reset year.
No.
Which is so crazy because so many people did. And to see so many, I think somebody made some montage of some ESPN analyst, or maybe it was a bunch that were just like, this is, it's over. They're, they're trading Russ. There goes the season. Mm-hmm. There goes probably Pete's going to have to, just, retire early halfway through the season and leave because it's going to be so bad. And like, how are they going to fix this? It's like, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so, to me, it just speaks to the idea that like, at the end of the day, nobody fucking knows.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, unless the guys who are controlling what they can control are all, I'm sure there was a similar sentiment in the locker room with you guys in 2011, 2012, even of just
people
like.
People didn't think that we were, they didn't think we were anything. And we took that to heart, right? Like, I shouldn't say we took it to heart, but we heard it.
I was just going to ask, how much are you guys paying attention to that stuff?
More so the negative stuff, right? Like, and when I say the negative stuff, like.
The fuel to the fire.
Yeah, to fuel the fire. So, and I love that.
Everybody counted us out. Y'all didn't believe in us. A whole bunch of people thought we weren't going to make it, right? We went 6-4. Oh, it's okay. They got a winning record, but they're not going to go to the playoffs. Remember that? And what we do? We come out and we do what we do. We play Seahawks football. We got an opportunity to do what we love, and we'll see you on the Super Bowl.
I play basketball, and I'm good. I'm good in sense of like, I'm good. I'm just here to play basketball. I want to win. We're gonna do what is necessary to win, right? But once you start talking shit to me, then it just turns into a whole nother level. Like, you're not gonna score, and I'm gonna shut you down on defense, right? I'm just gonna murder you on defense.
Yeah.
That
you did this. You did say that to me before I even introduced myself at the celebrity game.
So don't guard me.
I said that was a little. That was a little intense. Yeah, I was like, I'm Adam, by the way. You're like, I don't care. No, you didn't say it.
But that was the mindset that we had, right? And so when you can see that in other individuals, right? And I really like what they're building on the defensive side of the ball. And so, and I'm even as an offensive player, I always say this: defense wins championships. You know, you got to have the defense. And I like what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. And then you throw in a guy like Geno who's coming in and is just like, I'm just going to be me and slanging the rock.
Is it crazy to see what he's doing or no?
Not really. Honestly, not really. I mean, Tyler had said something to me last year. He's like, yeah, Geno's really comfortable. You know, he's really comfortable in the pocket. He knows the game plan. He had this level of confidence in him that Tyler was telling me about. And I didn't know anything about Geno, but I had texted him here and there on the side. And I just remember the first game of the season when I was in the locker room, I saw him and like we made the, you know, it was like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you again. And I told him, I said, just be yourself because that's good enough. You know?
Blitz, Homer picked it up briefly and Smith flips, wide open caught. Disley, touchdown, what a start.
And it wasn't anything special. It's just like everybody else is telling me that this guy's good enough. And so just reminding him, like, you don't have to do anything special other than just be yourself. And if you be yourself, you got Tyler, you got DK, you got this offensive line that's hungry, and you got a defense that they're building. And I know what defense they're building, so just be yourself. Whoa. You got to be nothing else, you know? And you could just see it. And it's a special, I missed that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't miss going out there and getting hit. I don't miss my body hurting.
Licks, dude.
I did.
I mean,
but I missed that culture.
Yeah.
Do the Rams keep going now that their game's going to mean a lot? Wilson's got space. He's got nobody downfield, though. Making it up. Cue the circus music. Wilson throwing for Baldwin. Oh, my goodness, he caught it. And there goes Baldwin down the sideline. Vintage Seahawk play. Baldwin out of bounds inside the 5. Unbelievable stuff.
Stop it. What were the practices like? I'm sure, like, I mean, just you and Sherm going against each other, and obviously, like, famously, like, there's, you know, I just from all the footage I've seen and you know, hearing some of the, I guess, scuffles or fights that would come out of them. I mean, it was like, and then I would hear Pete talk about, you know, the way that you're truly treating this shit as championship football, and the practices. I think with guys like you and Sherm and you know, Earl and Cam, just the D, and then you know, everybody just as hungry on offense. You couldn't not have that type of a clash like that. I mean,
yeah.
And it's what made you guys so prepared, right?
My therapist told me this. She said, conflict is the price of something deeper, you know? And I think that's what it was, because we all loved each other like brothers. We didn't, it's not that we disliked each other, you know? But when you stepped on the field, this was the standard. And if you didn't meet the standard, there was a problem. And it wasn't necessarily like, if you didn't meet the standard, it was basically saying that you didn't care about the other guys around you.
Right.
You know? And that's not okay. We're about winning. And that means I need you to do your job. If you don't do your job, then I can't do my job. And if I can't do my job, then I can't put food on the table. So you're not allowing me to put food on my table for my family.
Whoa.
You know? So that was the level of accountability that we had. And yeah, did we push the boundaries of that? Absolutely. But when you're in a family, you're going to have fights, totally. Right? And it's not about the fights. It's about how do you come back around after those fights. And we always galvanized even stronger after those fights, because it was like, I'm pushing your buttons because I need you to be better. I need you to be better. And, you know, the thing that I love about Pete and John, and the thing that I also hate, that pissed me off about them, is they were the same way. You know, they were competitive in a different sense. They tried to make everything work until they couldn't. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They tried to do everything they could to make it work until they couldn't. And, you know, us on the other side of it is like, nah, this shit ain't working. It needs to be fixed right now because I only have a limited time in this NFL before I got to go. So you got to make this shit right, you know? But I love the fact for them that they were competitive and trying to make it work every time, as long as they could, until they couldn't. And they gave us the free reign to push it and, you know, to push guys and, you know, to make it our own. And
what were those battles with you and Sherm like?
Sherm held me every practice. Sherman, man, what they should do is they should go back and they should compile all of our one-on-ones and they should release it.
Oh shit!
I wish they
would do
that
on his podcast.
I would love that.
Let him do DVD commentary on it.
I would love that.
Sherm, where are you? There's my Sherm cam. Sherm, let's go, dude.
Sherm and I battled.
We'll get you the footage
every day, and you know, at that time it was like I was the leader in the receivers room. He was the leader in the defensive back room. So we were the guys who were setting the tone.
Oh, man.
And so we had to practice at that level every day, and we did. And, there's a lot of times I would beat Sherm. There's a lot of times he would beat me, but every day it was a battle. And we set the tone. So that was the standard. So, Sherm and I we're battling, we're fighting each other. The next two guys, you have to do the same thing. And if you didn't do the same thing, why are you not doing the same thing? We're out here trying to get better because we're trying to win.
Here we go, we're rolling. Every day you should feel the energy, even in stretch, the early part of practice. We're trying to set the tone for the day, so you should see the coaches working really hard, trying to juice guys up, players doing the same. We got to have that energy, you got to have that spunk out here, so you should see it right off the bat. If you're here at our practice, you'd recognize that our guys always tap in. That means they hit the I'm in sign. That's to start their whole process for the day's work. When they tap that sign, they're making an affirmation, and they say I'm in as they hit it. It's a positive statement about what they intend to do, and they're coming out here to give everything they got, hold nothing back. The whole world that may be troubling them or whatever is left to the side now, and it's just about practicing football our way. And I think it's a big deal. It's something our guys are really good at doing, and I love it.
You set that standard, you set that precedent. And to Pete's credit, he allowed us to do that. He really allowed us to make it as aggressive as we possibly could. And obviously it was beneficial for us.
How fun was it to watch that defense come together? And on the flip side, I guess just when the team started, I guess 2012, I feel like is when the run and the next chapter of Seahawks football was being written. Watching that come together, just because, again, you have the inside track, you're at practices, you're getting to know these guys, you know who they are off the field and how it's translating on the field.
Yeah.
Seeing that just build, you're like, oh, I'm about to watch and be a part of, one of the greatest defenses of all time.
It was special. It was so special. And, you guys got to see it in the games, but I got to see it every day in practice, and that was special. Earl and I would compete every day. Sherm and I would compete every day. Cam would be doing his thing with the linebackers and the D line, and there was such a level of confidence. I think the only analogy I can give you. So the other night I'm watching my two oldest daughters. They're sleeping in the same room together, and it's bedtime, but they're still awake, and so they're playing. And my youngest, she's laying on her bed, and my oldest is coming over and she's reading her book, right? And my wife and I were talking about the level of safety and confidence that they're going to grow up with because they have each other, right? My brother, we're 13 years apart, so I didn't really get that, right? But I'm watching them grow up, and it's just my daughters, they're going to have a level of confidence that I don't know about just because they have each other, right? When they go to school together, if some girl's picking on,
backup.
Yeah, she's got backup.
Yeah.
There's just a level of confidence. That was the level of confidence that we had going onto that field every time, I mean, obviously I would go in and thinking the cornerback who's covering me, they don't have a chance. But even if our offense is not able to sustain drives or to put up points, I know my defense is gonna destroy the opposing offense.
Yeah.
And it's just a level of confidence that you walk into that, I don't know, that it's just a different level of confidence.
And they knew that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you could tell by the way we celebrated each other's wins, right, on the sideline. When we would score or make a big play, the defense is jumping up and down, right? When Sherm would pick off the ball, I'd be the first one on the field celebrating with him. It was just it was culture. It was the winning culture that, aside from everything else, that's what I missed the most.
Would Cam and Earl hit people in practice the way they would in games? I would venture to assume you got to pull it back a little.
Cam wouldn't, because Cam would really hurt somebody if he did.
Bro.
I mean, all of them would. But, there was times, so Brian Walters, right? And again, our culture was when we practiced, we were really practicing, and nothing highlighted that more than the first Super Bowl. We're practicing. It's literally a couple days before the game, and our practices we're going full speed.
Get the fuck out of
and
here.
It's just, and Pete's having to tell us to slow down, but that was just the way we practiced. And also that level of preparation, we knew going into the game that we were going to win. There was just
serious.
Yeah, there was just. You need to talk to Cam Chancellor about it,
please,
because Cam and I first and foremost, Cam
I asked him,
was.
He says he's not ready to do podcasts yet.
Well, that may be true, but whenever he is ready, you got to talk to him about it. But the level of practice, right? It was just at a different level. And then I remember and Cam and I talk about this all the time. We were at the breakfast before the game, and we're watching. ESPN had their show on, and it's, you know, I still have the picture. It's all the analysts, and they're like choosing who's going to win the game. And there's 5 of them.
And they put the little logo up right below them.
Right.
Yeah.
4 of them picked the Broncos.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. And as good as Seattle is on the defensive side, and they have 3 Pro Bowl players over there in the secondary, but what Peyton Manning does and what this offense does is they put 4 and 5 wide receivers out there. They're all as good as any one of them. Demaryius Thomas, I think, is an incredibly special player on the outside and ultimately will make some plays, but it is the depth at receiver that's going to win this football game.
Ray Lewis was the only one who picked us.
Let's go.
Right? Yeah. And I remember we looked at, as they were clicking, as they were saying it, Cam and I looked, we were sitting next to each other eating breakfast. We looked at each other, didn't say anything. Cam just like nodded his head. He got up, he walked away. I stood there and I was just like, we're going to murder these guys.
No way.
Yeah.
They are blowing the roof off this place in New Jersey.
Don't worry, it's coming. Just stay there, it's coming.
Let's be smart. Let's play great football. Let's finish the year off right. One play at a time now, okay? Hey, it makes you hold on to that ball. Receivers keep catching and tucking away. Get first down.
Wilson out of the shotgun. The snap, the throw, the ball caught by Baldwin. Makes one man miss. Dives underneath. He's in. Touchdown, Seahawks. So good. So good.
Talk about we pedestrian, we average. Guess what? We walked up to the Super Bowl. Check out the score right now.
Wait a minute. Hey, you may not get another chance. This may be the last chance you get, right? Ball is hit, it's a fumble, and the Seahawks get it. That is going to do it. They're bringing the trophy home.
Hey, yeah. Hold on. Best defense ever. Best defense ever.
Hey, we'll beat the Greek gods. Hey! Are we the best defense? It's our time. Your Seahawks, Super Bowl 48 champions.
But it was because of the level of how we practice. And so, yes, every day there was a battle. And so Brian Walters one time, and again, you got to think, like all of our receivers, everybody in that receivers room, when we stepped out at practice, your job was to make the defensive back in front of you look bad. Because you're trying to make him better, right? But you're trying to make him look bad. So whether it was myself, Jermaine Kearse, Ricardo Lockett, Brian Walters, it didn't matter. Go out there and make them look bad. Brian made Earl look bad a couple times.
Oops.
Earl didn't like that. Earl didn't like that.
You don't
know?
say.
And Brian, like, you know, Brian is like, he's the sweetest guy.
Oh, he was a champ. He's a change game too. He's got some
B. Walters, that's my boy.
Yeah.
He's one of the nicest people on the
Shit.
planet. But, you know, he'll talk trash to you when he's with his boys.
Good.
Right? Yeah, he's with his boys.
Yeah.
And so he's talking trash to Earl. He let Earl know it, and Earl didn't like that. And so Earl, you know, Earl did a cheap shot. I'll say what it was. Earl did a cheap shot, and, you know, unfortunately, B. Walt got hurt, and it was a fight. It was a fight. You know, yeah, you hit my boy, we're going at you.
Oh, shit.
But it was, if I'm being honest, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course.
It was a lot of fun.
It's like food fight in the cafeteria.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're all trying to make each other better. Yeah. And Earl and B. Walt, like they had their rivalry going on, right? But it made all of us better. It made all of us better.
Also, probably exciting to go out to practice knowing that you get to watch an in-house rivalry. I don't know. It just, right? Doesn't that elevate just the excitement of
every day
practice that can get mundane?
You had to bring your lunch pail to work. You had to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would Pete be as fired up for practice as he is on games? I mean, it's like you can't, you know, force, replace, or even try to like fake the enthusiasm I feel like he has.
It's real. Pete loved it. Pete absolutely loved the way we practiced, but he had to kind of push it back because we were getting in trouble. You know, we got fined twice. I think they had even said like if the next time we had a fight on the field that they were going to take a draft pick away. So then we really had it was. I mean. But we were pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of nip that in the bud as much as we could, but you know, we were still fiery about it.
2012, an insane finish to the season. I'm assuming just because I know how I felt at the sports bar, and how I was crying in front of a lot of other grown men and beautiful women, and felt very not let down, but just bummed but immediately excited. I don't know how you guys felt, but it was just like, oh man, like this, we're right there.
Yeah.
So the next season can't come fast enough.
13 seconds left. 49 yards away from Matt Bryant. From the right hash. Good snap. Good hold. And it is good.
You look at Mike Smith there. That's why that hair is that color. You last long enough in this league. What a comeback. What a game. And as I said, it would have been one thing to run them out of the house. But boy, I tell you what, to bring it back this way. Now, we still got 8 seconds on the board.
You know, just from playing sports, I know, you know, being a fan watching is one sort of hurt. But being on the field, I mean, it's like, I don't know if you stayed on the field for a minute, if it was, you know, right back to the locker room and let's get home and get after it. But also it's like the kind of run that you guys went on, it wasn't, like you said, like supposed to, you know, you weren't really picked to do that.
Yeah.
So is there a little bit of like, oh, we were playing with house money anyway?
I think we were just we had such a level of confidence in that last part of the year that we knew we could feel the momentum. We knew something was brewing, right? But we also knew that there was a lot of lessons that we had to learn. So I remember immediately getting back on the plane and like we started looking at the film, not just the film from that game, from the whole season. And I also remember, so coming into that my second year, I did way too much in the off season. I didn't give my body enough time to rest and recover. And so I came into the second year, I was dealing with a whole bunch of injuries, right? And so that was when I started putting together, on the plane ride back, I started putting together a plan of like, okay, what is this off season going to look like, right? Like how much time am I going to take off? Where am I going? What am I going to do? All the things that I then became, that then became my routine for the rest of my career, right? But I think all of us had that mindset, that mentality. What is the next thing? What's the next level of this? Because we could all feel it, you know? And then obviously that next year it is what we said it was.
It was bonkers from the get-go, I feel like.
Yeah.
You talked about you and T-Jack kind of finding your groove. How quick did it happen? Obviously, like, you know, your 2016 season, I mean, 94 receptions, 28 yards, 7 TDs. And then I think in 2015 it was 14 TDs, right? Mm-hmm. And the year, I have the stat actually before. You went 2014 it was 825 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2015 1069, 14 TDs. In 2016 1128, 17. What changes from 3 to 14? Is it truly you and Russ figuring it out? Is it like, because that's, I think what most fans fail to recognize is that, like, you know, the chemistry, that it's not instantaneous all the time. And you've got to, like, I don't know how you guys go about figuring it out. Can you just speak to, like, you and Russ trying to get on the same page?
Yeah, I think it was just, it was both of us kind of maturing, right? So I was coming into my own as a receiver and really understanding the game from the chess level, right? Because I had always just done it from, you know, just being a good athlete. But now I'm studying the game and I'm knowing, okay, I don't necessarily have to run full speed here. I can just get open and then I can use my full speed after the catch. And so those were the subtle differences that I was now kind of perfecting, right? And I think Russ was doing the same thing. And we were just on the same page. And just, I mean, I would like to think that it was, you know, really good on our part, but I feel like a lot of times just the ball just bounced our way the right way, you know? But that being said, because we prepared at such an incredible level, we were prepared for those opportunities, right? So when he would break out of the huddle or break out of the pocket because he had to scramble, like, because of the film work that we did, because of the route work that we did, we were able to make a lot of great connections outside of the normal play because we were just on the same page. And so all that prep work prior to even stepping on the field, that prepared us for those opportunities. So yeah, it was really, really dope. It was, you know, I know people talk about flow state all the time. those 2 years, I was definitely in flow state more than I had ever been in my career in football.
Yeah, I don't know. You definitely played bigger and like the middle of the field. And your route running to me is like, I don't know, man, like bonkers. I don't know how much, you worked on that.
I'd put my route running up against anybody that's ever played.
Thank you.
Here's Wilson. Steps up, firing deep. He's got a man wide open, and it's complete. It's Doug Baldwin. And a big play for Seattle as he beat Brandon Williams on the coverage. And mark it down at the 29. It's a gain of 31.
Russell Wilson always has a sense for when his team needs him. Doug Baldwin, he beats Brandon Williams at the line of scrimmage with that release. Russell Wilson drops a dime in there for Doug Baldwin. Little momentum for the Seattle Seahawks.
Baldwin's had a nice half.
And I mean that humbly. I've worked really, really hard at it,
You hear that, Deion and Chris Carter?
I studied Chris Carter. I studied even Deion as a defender, right?
Yeah.
Like Deion is being one of the best defenders. How do you beat one of the best defenders, right? I studied Deion a lot before I even went to go play Revis in the second Super Bowl.
No way.
And if I'm being honest, I did really well against Revis. I didn't get the ball thrown my way, but I was really proud of the work that I put up, the film that I put up against Revis, because that was, that's one of the greats of our time. So that was what I had. Obviously, he wasn't at the peak of his performance, but he still had all the knowledge of how to be a great cornerback at that time. And I went up against one of the greats of our time, and I did really, really well, so I was really proud of that.
Do you feel how impressive it is what you're doing when you're doing it? Like, I've seen highlights where you're doing like 9 moves in one route before you even make a break, like down the sideline to get the ball. And I'm like, is that just all muscle memory and second nature at that point and instincts? Because like I'm watching, I'm like, fuck, dude. And obviously, like, I'm watching with no, comparison for the ability. Yeah. But because for me, it was just fucking, all right, everybody go deep. But you're doing like 50 different things and your feet are just, and then a spin. And I'm like, how much of that is calculated, I guess, in the moment versus just reacting?
Well, a lot of it is the prep work before.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously we practice. I know what play you're talking about against Green Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We practice that route every week, right? So even before that game, we practice it in other weeks, and so you know what you're trying to accomplish with that route, right? But then it comes in the film work. So that specific defensive back, I can't remember his name right now, but he was a young dude. He was doing really, really well, but his feet, like he didn't have sound footwork just yet because he was still young, right? And so I knew that if I could get him to turn his hips a certain way, I could get him to turn around, and then it would be done. Right. And so we actually, when we came to the sideline and we were thinking about which play to run, I remember the coach, he asked me, he's like, how does this feel to you? I was like, yeah, let's run it. I got it. Let's get it. And it worked out. Right. But to your point, it's a lot of prep work before that. And that's weeks and weeks and weeks, months of work, but then also the film study. I got to know my opponent just as much as I know myself, And I tell my brother this all the time, like what separated me, obviously I wasn't the biggest, strongest, or the fastest guy on the field, but what made me a viable option every time we ran a route is because I knew the guy across from me. I knew him probably better than he knew himself.
Russell Wilson with time in the area of Baldwin, who made the catch. Did he stay in bounds? Yes. Wow, between 2 Jacksonville defenders.
Not only did I study the film of him on the field, I listened to his interviews, right? Because I wanted to know what kind of a person he was. So how could I talk shit to him? How do I get into his head? And when he's doing well, what do I do to get him off of it? How do I shift his focus to something else? That, like, the psychology behind it, I really, really enjoyed that part of it. And I feel like that added to my game because I would step on the field, and even if a guy was doing well against me, I knew I had something in my back pocket to beat him, to then shift his confidence. And then once I owned not only him as the football player, the physical world, but also the mental, then it was I could just do whatever I wanted.
So you're just dropping little like you'll be lined up and you'll be like, I know you're a sucker for a vegan bolognese. He's like, who told you? You like fucking take off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. No, so like
that's crazy, dude.
My boy, he's gonna get mad at me for saying this, but Patrick Peterson, for example, right? Pat P he is such a phenomenal athlete that he would, when he was tired or when he felt like, he was, not dominating the matchup, he would just fall back on his athleticism, which is a trap, because I can beat your athleticism if I know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was it was a home game, and I remember I was tired. I'll admit I was tired. We were both tired. But I could feel he was just going to fall back onto his athleticism. And his athleticism was he was going to do a lazy kick in the inside, shoot with his inside arm, right? And I wasn't going to be able to beat him foot for foot. He's faster than me. He's a better athlete than me. So what I needed to do is I needed to keep him close to me, right? And then allow him to think that he had me, and at the last minute break apart to get the ball.
Wow.
Right? That was my only chance. And so when he shot his arm, I gave it to him. And I remember when he did it, I was like, oh, this may actually work. As I'm running the route, I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna work. And so he got close to me, and like we're battling, and again, he's bigger, he's stronger than me, so I'm kind of acting like I'm gonna battle with him, but trying to keep his eyes on me. And so when I'm like looking at him, but my peripheral is really, I'm trying to see the ball over here. When the ball goes up in the air, then I know how much time I have to react to get him to move so that I can get space to catch the ball. And I remember I saw the ball go up. I gave him one jab and kind of like pushed off a little bit. And that's when he looked back. And then that's when I separated and I was able to catch the ball, right? But it was that split second that I was able to make that decision. But that, again, that is like, I played him twice a year, right? So I got to study Pat P all the time. And listen, I love Patrick Peterson. He's one of my favorite players ever to have ever gone up against. I loved playing against him because it was such a challenge. Yeah. But I remember that specific moment, like, it was all of the things that I thought I knew about this sport. I was able to show that in one specific route.
That's incredible. Dope. When you're about to catch the ball, like let's say the freezing game in Minnesota against the Vikings, you got that one-hander. I can't help but believe that like even you as a professional in the moment is like, fuck yeah, dude, right? Like, or is it just like back to business? Like you're like, yeah, dude, I needed to get the ball. I only had one hand free, and so that's what I did.
3rd down and 10. 4-man rush, pressure put on, and a one-handed grab by Doug Baldwin. Sensational catch.
That was awesome. Watch this catch. On 3rd down and 10, you don't know if you're going to get drilled in the back. You don't know what's going to happen. He comes down and keeps that drive alive. Pete Carroll wants to convert some 3rd downs.
I was in flow state during that game. And it's not to my credit. I'm not taking credit for getting in the flow state. It was so cold that the only way that I was going to be able to perform was that I had to go to a different realm in order to be focused and present in this game. It was so cold.
It almost felt illegal that you guys were out there.
I was, yes. It was. We were all so mad.
You were.
How cold it was.
Yeah.
It was so cold. And so honestly, like, this was my routine. We'd go out there, we'd run the plays, I'd go to the sideline, I'd be in front of the heater. And I'm not thinking about anything else other than just trying to warm up because it's so cold. Right. And then defense would do their thing. It's our time to go back out. So I'd run back out on the field. It's just, that was all I could do. I couldn't think of anything else. And so, yes, in that moment when I caught the ball, there's film of me getting up like it was nothing. Like I wasn't even, it wasn't registering to me, right? Because I was just doing what I had to do in that moment to make the play. And now let's get to the next play. And yeah, I remember Captain Munderland came up to me and goes, that's a hell of a catch. And I was like, what? What'd you say? Oh, thanks. Next play. Because my mind I wasn't thinking about that. I was in flow state because it was so cold.
Does even running around warm you up, or is it just...
No, it was so cold. It was so cold.
Fuck, dude.
It was so cold.
Yeah, Pete was chewing his gum a little extra fast that day just to try to get some blood flow.
It was so cold. I never want to experience that ever again.
Experience like playing at Seattle. Every player talks about it. Can you just like speak to that a little bit about maybe the first time you even ran on the field to like, the NFC championship game? The vibe, is it as crazy as people talk? I've talked to a handful of players, both that are Hawks and not, and they're just like, yeah, dude, it's like I can't even explain it to you unless you like have been in our position. It's
I can't explain it to you.
The 12 flag was sort of in conjunction honoring the 12s. The jersey was already hanging up there representing them. But the 12 flag was one more way for us to get fans really excited about Seahawks football.
Down to the buildings, our Seahawks colors.
You see all the wide range of different individuals that they bring up there, and it's always, people that either make an impact in the community, an impact on the team, impact in the city.
And it's just a way to kind of fire up, get the fans even more rabid than they probably already are for that opening kickoff.
When that thing goes up and the 12s actually see it go up, that's probably one of the loudest moments of the game.
Paul, rest his soul, was the architect of all of that. All that we have here, it was his vision. And he was a perfect person to raise that 12th flag. And that's the one that sticks in my mind.
The amount of energy and electricity in that stadium, especially when the team is doing well, right? When you come out, the introductions, like even when the opposing offense is on the field, right? And the crowd, like, oh man, it is a special environment. It's a special environment. And I think, honestly, what I think it is because like this is the weather that we're in, right? People are kind of, they're storing up this energy.
Yeah, dude.
Right? And so when they get out there for that game, regardless of the weather, that is their opportunity to kind of let all that energy out.
Yeah.
And it is a special environment. And I can't explain it any other way.
NFC Championship game 2013, fucking bonkers. I mean, like, that whole game to me is like, you could put that one, it's just as classic to me as the 2014 one. I mean, that one's just feels like it's...
Yeah, you're saying the San Francisco one. Yes, that one, that's going to go down as one of the greatest games in NFL history.
Yeah.
Here the 49ers have driven it down on the arm of Colin Kaepernick with a chance to take the lead. Kaepernick, end zone, Crabtree, broken up, picked off! This game is over! Knocked in the air, intercepted by Smith. Off the hands of Richard Sherman. Sherman made the play and Smith was waiting for it. Flags came in at the end of the play for unsportsmanlike conduct. But with 22 seconds left, it's Richard Sherman, who played for Jim Harbaugh at Stanford, knocking it into the air, and Smith there for the interception. There's not many guys who can make a play on this ball. Richard Sherman, who you said he was a wide receiver at Stanford, he's out of position, but he's able to turn enough and get his left hand on that ball.
I mean, was your catch on the fourth down when they had the free play or no?
No.
That real big one towards the end. No.
That was Jermaine.
That was Jermaine.
Yeah, I was actually in the way. Yeah.
Flag is thrown. It's a free play. Into the end zone. The pass. Caught for the touchdown. Curse.
I'm very grateful that Jermaine is as good as a receiver as he has always been. Because I was in the way. And so I'm so glad he had the concentration to make that catch and score that touchdown because I was in the wrong place.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Had no clue. I don't think anybody did.
Good.
Wait, real quick. What did you say to him? I'm sure people asked you this after the 2014 when he made the catch against Green Bay.
Yeah.
And you guys were both in the end zone. I mean, I always love this about you too. And I wanted to tell you, like, just your fucking passion, dude. And, like, how into every moment I feel like you are. And I love, like, you and Sherm talking to the camera and, like, what you guys do and defending your teammates and defending the city and your team. I fucking love that, dude. I think there's an appropriate amount of people on each team, but it's like not every team has those guys. And sometimes they have the guys that are doing them where you're like, probably shouldn't be talking at all, really, let alone for your team and your city. But you guys were articulate. You had the right amount of passion in your eyes. It never came off like dickish or violent or like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even with Sherm at the end of to Aaron Andrews. I mean, that shit was unbelievable. And also I kept defending him. I'm like, these guys are like, what you guys are building yourself up to and the adrenaline. And then the fact that Sherm, and I know he's a well-spoken dude and not going to go off the rails, but like, dude, if that was me, I would have dropped so many F-bombs. I would have fucking probably grabbed the camera and shake, like, the fact that he was had brought his energy to a place to where he could just stand and talk, let's celebrate that for a minute.
Yeah.
After,
for sure.
But when you were screaming at Jermaine after that catch, do you remember what? And you don't have to share if it's private. But.
Well, it was a much built up situation because in that game, Jermaine was on the bad end of a couple of interceptions. Right. And I know regardless of how resilient we are in the moment, it impacts you, right? And we were all feeling it.
You were.
And I think I had a fumble on a kickoff return, and I also dropped a third down pass, which was going to be it was wide open, and so we were just feeling it.
At what point do you go, it's not our day?
Never say that.
Never. Okay.
Never say
Cool.
that.
Good answer.
It's always my day.
Love that.
No, if I miss 10 in a row, look out.
Whoa.
Because I'm going to hit that 11th one, and when I hit that 11th one, it's over. It's just it's a waterfall from there. So we were feeling it at that moment, but I remember we came out of at a halftime. I remember Jermaine said this. He said, "Our time's coming. We got to be ready for it." And Jermaine always used to say, "Find a way to find a way." And he was at my house yesterday, and we were I forget what we were talking about. We were just talking about life, and we were saying, "Find a way to find a way." And I remember in that at halftime, coming out of the tunnel, find a way to find a way. And I remember there was a situation where it was third down. It was right before the touchdown, right before his touchdown. We had to convert this third down, and it's crazy because the whole game the defender was playing me a certain way, and I thought in this route I was like, okay, I'm not getting the ball because the defenders the coverage was I'm not getting the ball.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he switched his position, and I got so excited, and I don't know why he did that. And, I beat him up the sideline.
Wilson, Baldwin, what a throw! Inside the 40!
First down, right? The very next play, Jermaine goes and scores that touchdown.
Wilson toward the end zone. It is caught! Seattle's going to the Super Bowl. Jermaine Kearse.
And I was just screaming at him the same thing that he was telling me at halftime.
Cool.
This is who we are. We may not be the superstars on the team. We may not be the biggest or strongest or fastest. We may not have all the stats, but when you give us an opportunity to compete, to help our team win, we're going to show up every time. And that was, and especially with my brother, right, Jermaine, going through all the things that we have gone through in our career up to that point, and then throughout that game at that point, it was just you saw it.
Yeah.
You saw it.
But I was I was doing a stand-up at the San Jose Improv, right? And so I was at a sports bar, San Jose, Niner country.
Yeah.
And it's all Niners fans. And then myself and my buddy. And we're going crazy. Truly the only Hawks fans. They kicked us out of the bar. At that touchdown, I was running around, patting everyone in the back, high-fiving them.
That's why they kicked you out.
Yeah, totally. It was a little, but could not contain the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it was basically I knew I was going to get kicked out, so I just went down the line, back rubs, rubbing heads, and literally just to the door because I was like, see ya later, we're going to the Super Bowl. That catch was insane, that he made in the end zone. Even we got to see emotion out of Russ, which was crazy. I don't know how everybody was after that, but it was just it was, that game was bonkers. But an NFC Championship game. So when that happens, you're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We got about 10 minutes left. Super Bowl, knowing you're going, is it tears? Is it again, I'm just so curious, what's that balance of letting myself be a human and enjoy the moment, but also you hear in every post game, we're not done,
Yeah.
Which I know is a true sentiment, but
that's really what it was. We celebrated on the field after the win the locker room, we celebrated, we had a good time. Everybody came back the next day ready to get to work. We all felt it. Not only did we feel this was an opportunity, now we're playing for the greatest game in our sport, but also we all felt like we got something here. Let's go. Let's not waste any more time. it's time to get back to work. And obviously that showed itself in that game in the Super Bowl.
I went to that Super Bowl with my buddy Brad. He's a little person and a diehard Broncos fan. And so I bust his balls all the time right now. But he was so pumped too. He's like, "Oh man, thanks for us." And I just texted him the other day. I was like, "No problem, bro." But you know, sports are sports. But that game, we went out there and he was so cocky. I mean, he might be 4'4" tall, but he was acting like he was 6'8".
Yeah.
And we're walking around New York.
He should have watched us practice. He might not have been as cocky.
Bro, that's what I kept telling him. I was like, and we were walking around New York. I don't know if you guys got this experience, but it was a lot of Seahawks people. And I was like, well, we're traveling for this game.
Yeah.
And then we get to the game and a lot of orange. And I'm just like, fuck, dude. It's just like Denver's closer, I guess, maybe Seattle, whatever. But I felt like, I feel like I saw a lot of Seattle peeps in the city walking around and just soaking this up. And then after that opening snap and the
you
safety.
Heard it.
What it was like from your end. Were you like, holy shit, there's a home
game? Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
It's snapped over the head of Peyton Manning. A flag is down and the ball's out of the back of the end zone. It's a safety to start this game as Manning wasn't ready.
Illegal motion. Offense number 18 moving forward to the snap. Penalties decline. Safety.
You know, you can talk about it being a quote-unquote corporate crowd. This crowd is loud. They talk about the 12th man in Seattle. Look how this game starts.
Yeah, but just a miscommunication there. Peyton Manning is coming up to the line to either make a protection check or change the play. And Manny Ramirez, the center, he doesn't know that. He snaps it over his head.
You know, you talked about the culture and the mindset. Like, think about this. Like, as much as you know of me as a competitor, right? Those guys on the defensive side of the ball were just the same. And so going into the game, when you know, it's Peyton Manning, it's the best offense in history, right? How do you think those guys took that?
Oh, shit.
Right? They couldn't wait to shut them down. And obviously they did. Again, just going into that game, the level of confidence that we had because it was all of us together going into this game. It was a different level.
To actually make good on that though, and like you said, like we're going to beat the shit out of them, but it was not even close. For me, it was unbelievable because it was like, yo, who wants, like, you know, and when people are like, oh, it'd be cool if it was even a close game. It's like, fuck no, dude. Not after everything that's been said. You want the blowout.
Yeah. I know we got time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about the following season too.
Please.
Because we should have beat the Patriots, you know? We should have beat the Patriots. We knew going into that game it was going to be a dogfight because it's Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, right? Like, they have been here before. Obviously, they have a culture and a winning, they know what they're doing. But we knew going into that game, like, just give us a chance, we're going to win this game. We should have won that game, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And I tell you this, if we had won that game, we were going to win the next one. We were going to win the next Super Bowl. There was not a question in anybody's mind. If we had won, like, we were going to win the next Super Bowl, you know? That was the level of greatness I think that our team had. And when I say greatness, I don't mean individual greatness. I'm talking about team, culture, like all of that. We would have won the third one. We would have won 3 in a row.
Because the confidence level and unity would be at an all-time high.
There was no way that Marshawn and that offensive line were not getting in the end zone.
Yeah, dude.
There was no way. It doesn't, and again, like, this is the level of preparation, confidence, all the things that it doesn't matter what you put up there. It doesn't matter that you're going to put goal line defense and it's cover 0 man-to-man. We don't care. You know what I mean? That was the level of the mindset and the mindset, the confidence that we had going in, and obviously it didn't work out our way. But if we would have ran the ball, we would have won the third one.
Do you
I have no doubt about that.
Being in the huddle for that call?
Of course.
Yeah.
So 2 things about that play call. Number 1, we were all. So my nephew, I'm about to. This is a side. He thought perplexed was pronounced purplexed. And so if you ever hear me say I was perplexed, that's why. I know it's perplexed, but I always say perplexed because it's my nephew.
I'm pronouncing it like that for the rest of the time.
I was perplexed, right? The fact, first off, that we weren't running the ball. But number 2, it's a pass play, right? And again, no offense to my boys. I love my boys. You know, Ricardo, Jermaine, Chris Matthews, all of them. But obviously, as a competitor in that situation, if you're gonna throw the ball, I want you to throw the ball to me. Not to mention, I had been killing Revis the entire game.
Yeah,
I wanted the ball, but my route was a zone read route. So, you know, everybody knew they're going to play man-to-man. So I come out of the huddle knowing, first and foremost, we should be running the ball. And number two, I'm not even in the play. I'm not even going to, unless he scrambles, I'm not in the play, right? So I was frustrated for multiple reasons with that play call. Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. Like, it's just, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. But I mean, there's,
you know, you could not come out of the huddle and say, we're not running this play, but obviously we're not doing that in that moment, you know?
Did everybody else, did you kind of look around? Were there other kind of looks up or like?
We were all, I mean, most of us in the huddle were just kind of perplexed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least tell me about the Super Bowl win and how great that was, and the parade and the feeling and just the, I mean, does it complete, like, does it kind of make go anything in the career after this is gravy on top?
No. And I think all of us most of us felt this way. The celebration was cool, but that's not what we remember, because even in the parade, all of us were just so ready to get to next season.
Wow.
Because we wanted to go do it again.
Wow.
You know, I remember sitting on this float and everybody's like, yeah, this is cool, but who's the next opponent? You know, that was the vibe that we had. And I loved that, because that's what we were there for. We were there to win, and all the stuff that came with it, we expected that to come because we're here. All we want to do is win.
So you guys weren't bummed that you lost the second Super Bowl. It was more, I mean, but it was more, bummed that we're not going to get it because things were just different at that point. So we're not going to get a chance.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. That locker room, we were very pissed off that we did not win that Super Bowl. Very, very pissed off. Not only in the locker room after that play in that game, but even, you know, well into the next season, right? It was a lingering.
It was, huh?
It was very, yes, it lingered. And we did our best to try to come out of it, but, you know, that's a really, listen, you got guys who are legitimately killing themselves, right? Like, every time that you step out on that field and you get hit, you're taking days off your life. You have guys who are legitimately killing themselves to get to that moment, right? Like, we were on the 1 yard line. There's nothing that's going to stop Marshawn and that offensive line from getting in the end. Like, even put me at tight end to block the defensive end. I promise you that defensive end is not hitting my running back.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, so it's really, 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 really hard to recover from that. And, you know, I don't think any of us did. And I think, you know, it still weighs on not just, I know it weighs on Pete and John as much as they want to act like it doesn't. I know it weighs on them too. Wow. You know, it weighs on all of us. But, you know, we're coming out of it. We're obviously we want to see the Seahawks win and get back to that winning culture. And so now that we're seeing them do that, it's kind of a healing process for us too. I
was just going to say, for someone that's so headstrong like you are and able to, you know, has overcome obstacles and knows how to kind of right the ship, how do you, I was talking about this with a buddy of mine, probably because I stayed up all night watching every piece of post-game whatever, just fucking in denial. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm like, eventually you get over it or you find a way, I guess, to cope with it. But like, how do you with something like that? Is it just like winning? Is it almost like winning cures everything? Or
honesty. Honesty is what, I don't want to say it cures everything, but it gives you an opportunity to cure whatever ails you. We had 2 opportunities to right the ship after the game, and we missed it. We missed those opportunities. And I know, you know, all of us who are a part of that, we look back on it now, and you know, the folks who made those decisions, like I know that we all wish we would have done something different, you know? But you live and you learn. And at the end of the day, we're all human too, you know, and we were really passionate about winning in our culture at that time. So, you know, you take those things personal and it's really hard, you know, and yes, those were those 2 moments that we missed, those were significant mistakes. You know, I'm not going to call anybody out about it, but, you know, it is what it is. Those were 2 missed opportunities, and I think we could have recovered from those if we handled those 2 instances right, but we missed it, and it just is what it is, you know. And winning is really, really hard in the NFL.
Yeah,
and it's not You know, you could have the greatest talents, you can have all this stuff. It's the culture and the little things that matter, and the little things to keep that culture together. We missed out on those opportunities, and you know, it is what it is.
Before we wrap this up, and by the way, this has been awesome. You're a fucking legend, dude. I hope you had a good time.
I did. I appreciate you having me on.
I want to just piggybacking on Marshawn. Just want to throw a couple names at you, and just whatever comes to your head, whether it's a couple words, a sentence, a story. Just because, again, I think as a sports fan, but a Seahawks fan, I feel very like, as I know all fans do, like being able to witness that chapter is like unreal. Like it's all you want as a sports fan, is to be able to, especially in football, watch the game like with a purpose and know that it matters, and have like be emotionally connected to it.
Yeah.
And like you guys gave us, I mean, spoiled really. It's like there's so many teams and people and fans that don't get to have that, and I feel you know, same way about having you to watch and root for and be a part of. Same way I felt about growing up with Griffey in the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like, wow, I get to watch and like have a connection to this greatness weekly, and it's amazing. Marshawn. So I'll just say these names, but I mean, like there's probably a gazillion stories, anecdotes, whatever, but like just Marshawn Lynch, what does that guy mean to you?
Love. Marshawn is, I can't say enough about him. You know, he's just, oh man, he's at the core of his being. He is an amazing human being. And, you know, every interaction with him, he demonstrated that. You know, whether it was like, you know, taking his backpack. He walked into the locker room one time. I was like, oh, that's a dope backpack. He took it off, dumped everything out, and gave it to me. Didn't say anything else, and just kept walking.
Holy shit!
I was like, Marshawn, I wasn't asking for it, you know. But that was the level of selflessness that he had, and it showed in everything that he did. He was so caring about everybody around him. You know, it was love, and I respect the hell out of him because of the way that he played the game, right? He played the game the right way. He gave everything to his teammates on the field, but I loved him as a person even more because of how he treated his teammates off the field. You know, we were always hanging out. He was always taking care of us. He was just, you know, it's like I could call up Marshawn right now, and Marshawn he would pick up the phone and he would talk shit to me. You know, just like and if we hadn't spoken in a year, he'd pick up the phone like we hadn't missed a beat, you know. He's a special human being, and I'm very grateful that I got the opportunity to play alongside him.
I was just gonna say, like looking over and seeing him do certain runs, ever just again step out of your pro body into your fan body and go, Jesus Christ.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, after the fact, because I'm in there trying to block for him, right?
Yeah.
But another thing about Marshawn is that because he was that way, it bled over to all of us. Like I can't miss this block. If I got to get this safety, I got to get this safety because I'm not letting this safety hit my running back. I'm not letting him hit Marshawn. And if he does hit Marshawn, not only do I feel terrible about missing my assignment, I feel terrible that I let my boy down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what winning culture is. That's what people miss. That's what people don't understand. It's not about the X's and O's and like getting your assignment right. It's about actually caring about the guy next to you, that it matters so much. I cannot miss this assignment because I can't let my boy down. You know, that's the level of culture that we had. And that's why we won, because it wasn't about, it was just so much more. It was about love. And Marshawn was the catalyst to a lot of that.
Fuck yeah, dude. Cliff Averill.
Stud. Cliff is as consistent of a person and a player as you could imagine. Cliff we were just playing basketball with him early this morning.
Fuck, dude.
That's my boy.
He can also ball.
He can ball. He's a stud. Solid human being, you know. And I think what he brought to the element to our team is that he had been at other places.
Yeah.
You know, he was at Detroit for a long time.
Yeah.
So he brought an understanding and a perspective that we didn't have. And added to our culture tenfold because of that. He's a solid dude.
Mike Bennett.
Comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy.
Bro, he ripped it.
Yes, he did.
Commentating with Calabro
He
and Joe
balled out.
McHale.
Michael B. is authentically himself no matter who he is around. He does not care. He just wants to be free to be himself. And he wants to be loved, essentially, you know, and he wants to be loved for who he truly is. And I know he got that in our culture, which is why we're still tight to this day, right? But yeah, Mike B, he's a special person too.
Russell Wilson.
Russ.
You guys still homies?
You know, we don't talk as often as I'd like,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. One word I describe Russ, he's a brother, you know, and a brother in a sense of like, you want well for him.
Yeah.
You really do. And, you know, I haven't been around him, you know, for a long time. And, you know, I hope he's doing okay. You know, I know the struggles of struggling in the NFL right now. I know, you know, he can put up the facade all he wants to, but as his brother who truly knows him, I know it's getting to him.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
it can't not. Any human being is going to get to
1,000.
You know, and I just hope that he has the right people around him, you know, to hold him accountable to who he says that he wants to be, as not only as a football player, but also as a husband, a father, and a man. Right? Because that's more that, but all this other bullshit don't even matter, right? Like, I just want to make sure he's good. That's my brother. We were in the trenches for a long. We you know, unfortunately Tyler broke a lot of them, but we had a lot of records.
Yeah, dude.
You know, so I just hope he's doing well. I hope he's, you know, keeping his mentals right, because I know the struggle of the NFL is real, and so I hope he's doing all right.
Love that. Pete Carroll,
the man. Pete Carroll's the man. And I, you know, Pete always gets the credit, but I got to throw John in there too.
Yeah.
John Snyder, you know, they work really, really well together.
He's a wizard.
They butt heads a lot, you know, because they're competitive and they're trying to get it right. But those two together, they make a great pair. But Pete and John, like it's Pete and John to me. You know, I love Pete to death. Pete's the thing that I think for me stands out about Pete is just his level of competitiveness.
Yeah.
But, you know, how old is he now? 70? He's not 95 or something like that?
218.
Yeah. His level of competitiveness. But I know when he was my age, you know, when I came into when he was that age, I think we were very similar, right, in our competitive styles. But obviously he's much older. He's had a plethora of experiences, and so his competitive nature has just shifted and changed and morphed to where he can be still competitive, but in the realm that he's able to be competitive in.
Right.
And I'm seeing that now more and more on the outside of it, right? There was things that I disagreed with Pete on, but now looking at it, it's like Pete was just competing to make it right. He was trying his best to make it right, to make it work, you know? And I really, really respect that.
He was trying to find a way to find a way.
He was trying to find a way to find a way,
Yeah.
you know? And I really respect that. And now, you know, hindsight, looking back on it, I'm like, man, I get why he did what he did in those moments. And I really appreciate that. He's taught me a lot of valuable lessons, obviously as a coach, but, you know, just as a man. And so I'm really grateful for that.
I was going to say, did he ever drop any nuggets or anecdotes that stuck with you, or just life advice, or?
I mean, not necessarily verbally, because, you know, it's just the way he lived his life, you know? And again, I'm not trying to paint anybody as a saint, because none of us are saints, but that's not what it's about. It's just about how he maneuvered and managed his life amongst all the chaos that was around him. You know, obviously being a head coach in the NFL, like there's a lot of things that come with that. But he's also got his family, you know, and I got to see that part of him. And I, you know, now as a father of 3, I really respect how hard it is to be a coach in the NFL and still be connected to all the people that you got to be connected to. He did it, you know, it not by any means am I saying, you know, he was perfect at it, because there's, you know, he's got family that if they hear this are like, well, you know, there's this and that, and I get that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I really appreciated how he tried. Every day he tried to win the day, you know, and that I'm not trying to, you know, promote his book, because I know it's in his book, but that was really him. Every day he tried to win the day. And I tell my brother this all the time. What I learned from that culture was that as a human being, you're going to make mistakes. But every day you're presented with choices. And every day what you're trying to do is get more wins than losses, right? You're going to take some loss. You're going to take some L's. You're trying to get more wins than losses. And the only way that you get more wins is that if you approach every opportunity, every decision with trying to make the best decision possible. It's not to say it's going to be the right decision, but your intent was there, right? And Pete taught me that. Pete, I shouldn't say he taught me that. Like, my family taught me that, but Pete, you know, in the experience that I had with him, he affirmed that for me. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So, Pete's the man.
Wow. That's also the exact Jamba Juice slogan. So that's crazy that Pete would say that. Win the day. Dude, you're a legend on and off the field. It's no surprise that you crush podcasts as hard as you crush the game of football. You're the man. Guys, Doug Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen, everybody clap it up.
Hey, appreciate you fellas. Thanks for having me.
You're the man, dude. And next time you hoop it up at LA Fitness, I'd like to throw my name in the hat. If you need a 6'1", quick fat power forward, I'm tough to D up. I got a 3-ball in me. Didn't get to bust it out because GP pulled me after I bricked a couple layups.
Listen, I saw you shoot.
Pre-game.
I did. Is it okay? So that's your excuse? It was pregame.
Yeah, dude. You and Subird told me I was shooting too much.
Yeah. Okay.
But you saw me shoot. What'd you say?
It just, you know, I would rather you pass the ball.
Oh, god damn!
It's all love. It's all love. I'm trying to win. Look, I know my strengths and my weaknesses too, right? So.
Man, yeah. I guess. I mean, my place was in the post, but there were just too many big bodies down there.
Next year, though. Next year.
Next year, you guys gonna run it back?
Absolutely. What? Absolutely.
I think I got a couple more years left in me.
Okay. Done deal.
I also want to talk to you guys about trying to maybe get a comedy show going in support of
we
the
talked about
organization.
that. Yeah,
we'll figure that
down
out.
For that.
Championsatchange.org. Doug Baldwin, you're on Instagram and Twitter. You're a great follow, and you're a great dude. I fucking appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
Later.